In this lesson, we'll just review long division and synthetic division. You did it last year. So let's put a zero term here to hold the places. And then we look for a number times 3x to get 9x cubed. Well, we know we need 3 times 3 to get 9, and then we'll have to do an x squared times x to get x cubed. 3x squared times 3x gives you 9x cubed. 3x squared times 2x gives you, times 2 gives you 6x squared. And we subtract, bring down the negative x. What times 3x gives you negative 6x squared? We need a negative 2 times 3 to get negative 6, and then we'll need an x. Negative 2x times 3x is negative 6x squared. Negative 2x times 2 is negative 4x. Subtract. So that'll be 0. Negative, negative is positive, so it's 4x minus x. And what times 3x gives you 3x? That's a 1. And here's what we do with the remainder. We go plus negative 5 over the divisor. So we have this polynomial plus a rational, and that is the quotient. Pause and try this one. What times 2x is 8? What times 2 is 8 is 4. And then we need to use x squared. So 4x squared times 2x is 8x cubed. And then we get negative 12x squared. Add 12 to negative 18, and we get negative 6x squared. What times 2x is negative 6x squared? Negative 3x. Negative 3x times negative 3, positive 9x. Subtract, and we get 12x minus 20. Here will be a 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times negative 3, negative 18. So we get negative 2, and that will be the remainder that we write like this. Okay, this is telling us to do the same thing we just did. We're going to use long division. It's just a different way of asking the question. If this is a factor of that, then we can do long division, and whatever the answer is to long division will be another factor of this. So we're going to do x squared times x squared gives you x to the fourth. X squared times that is negative 4x cubed. X squared times that, negative 12x squared. So that'll give you 0. We go plus, this will be a positive 4, so we get x cubed plus 12. That'll be negative 24x squared. Multiply by x. X times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 4x. Negative 4x squared minus 12x. And subtract. We're going to add. This will be a plus 4. So that's negative 20x squared plus 12. And we get 80. And we need a term times x squared to get negative 20x squared. So that'll be negative 20. Negative 20. That'll be positive 80x. Negative 20 times negative 12 is 240. Subtract. And there's no remainder. So that tells us that that is a factor and that is a factor. This is a factor because there's no remainder. So then we could say that x squared minus 4x minus 12, x squared plus x minus 20. This is a factorization of the original polynomial, and then we can factor this. So we have to multiply to get negative 12 and add to get negative 4. And over here, multiply to get negative 20, add to get 1, so it'll be at 5. That's just a 5. And this is a negative 4. So it's x minus 6, x plus 2, x plus 5. So we were able to use long division to help us factor a polynomial, and this is how we're going to be using it most of the time. We're going to use division to help us find the factors of a polynomial. Let's review synthetic division. So with synthetic division, we just use the coefficients. And there's no cubic term, so we'll make sure we put a 0 as a placeholder. We are dividing by zeros. We're not dividing by the factor. This is a factor, and it would correspond with a 0 of negative 2, so we just change that sign. And then we're just going to add. 2 plus 0 is 2. Multiply. add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, and add. So these numbers are the coefficients of the quotient. If we divide x to the fourth by x, then we're left with x cubed. So we know that's an x cubed, and then that'll be squared. So we know that is the quotient. Try this one using synthetic division on your own. Pause. Here we have a remainder, so we can write the quotient as 4x squared plus 15x plus 44 plus the remainder, just like we saw with long division, the remainder over the divisor. Okay, here we just have something a little different because with synthetic division, this 3 needs to be included somehow. So why don't we look at what's happening? We want to rewrite this so there's no more 3 there. So let's take a look at this division problem written as a rational expression. Alright, well, we just want to make sure that x has a coefficient of 1, so we'll multiply by 1/3 in the numerator and denominator. So then we distribute the 1/3, and now we have 12x to the fourth, 2x cubed, 1/3 of 12, 1/3 of 30, and here we're going to have x plus 1/3. Now we can do synthetic division. So we're going to divide this using this with synthetic division. 12 and then now that'll be a negative 1/3. Add, multiply, add, and multiply, add, multiply, you get negative 2, multiply, you get 4, add, there's no remainder, so we know the quotient is 12x. We started out with a 4th degree, so now it's a 3rd degree. All right, pause the video and try that one. We need this to be a 1, so we'll multiply by 1/4. So 1/4 times 48. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. And divide by 4. 6 over 4, we just say 3 over 2. And that's divided by x plus 1/4. X to the 5th, x to the 4th, x to the 3rd. There's no x squared, so we need a 0. 11/4 x and 3/2. Negative 1/4. Add and multiply, we get negative 3. Add, multiply, negative 1. Add, multiply, we get negative 4. Add, multiply, we get 1. But let's call that 1 over 1, which is 4 over 4. Negative 4 times negative 1/4 is positive 1, and this is positive 1. And then we add 15 over 4. And then we'll multiply, we get negative 15 over 16. And when we add that, this is going to be 24 over 16, because we're going to multiply by 8. 24 minus 15 is 9, so we'll have 9 over 16. And then we would write the quotient. The original degree is 5, so this will be a 4th degree. We have a remainder, and that's how we can write the remainder. We can also write the remainder like this. Oh, this is not how it's supposed to be. That is not there. We have that. There's the divisor. There's the divisor that we're using. So that's going to be in the denominator. And then we can just multiply. Instead of having a 9 over 16 in the numerator, we could just say that it's really 9 over 16, and we're going to multiply the denominator by that, 16 over 4. And that's the end for this lesson.